Here.
Mr. Joel Brennan, Mr. Grady Crosby,
Here.
Senator
Here.
Alberta Darling, Mr. Mark Flaherty,
Here.
Representative Kaylin Haywood, Alderman Cavalier Johnson,
Present.
Senator Latanya Johnson,
Here.
Mr. James Cantor,
Here.
Mr. Scott Mansky, Mr. Scott Mansky, Greg,
Here.
Mr. Greg Marcus, Mayor Dennis McBride, Ms. Joanne Sabir, Representative Joe Sanfilippo, Ms. Aicha Sawa,
Here.
Mr. Omar Sheikh,
Here.
Alderwoman Jocasta Zamaripa. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Michael. First order of business is any discussion and the approval of the meeting minutes from the last board meeting on April 16th. If there's no discussion, I would ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Bob.
Second.
Second. Thank you, Senator Alderman Johnson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
All right. Meeting minutes are approved. Next order of business, Mr. Steve Marsh to go over our financial report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everyone. The 2021 financial update is a bit brief today, as I want to be sure there's adequate time for Baker Tilly to walk through their audit presentation, and frankly, the update hasn't changed much from last month's board meeting. Our forecast relative to budget has remained static, but we've made no updates since the April report, as noted on page 10 of today's board packet, which is the income statement that has column IDs M, N, O, and P at the top. I do expect by the June board meeting that we will have more certainty around the 2021 event calendar and will adjust our forecast projections accordingly, good, bad, or indifferent. If we flip back to the income statement on page 7 of the board packet with column IDs A, B, C, and D at the top, you'll see a comparison of year-to-date actual results through March 31st, which is column B, against year-to-date budget numbers, column A. Jumping to the bottom of the page first, you'll see on line 67, column C, net income is down from budget by $5.1 million. As we discussed at prior board meetings this year, most of this variance is driven by the increase in bond interest expense, which is line 65, due to the issuance of the expansion debt in December of 2020, which was not projected in the 2021 budget. Additionally, line 35, column C, you'll see tax revenues are down relative to budget. If you recall, at the January 2021 board meeting, we reforecasted tax revenue projections pretty early in our fiscal year. And while January and February lagged a bit behind that reforecast, the March tax revenue results, which we just received earlier this week, exceeded our projections and put us back on track to meet the January reforecast. Up to line 29, net operating income to date, we're better than budget by just over $1 million. Much of this positive variance is due to the vaccination clinic event we've been hosting since January. Additionally, we've seen positive net income from hosting several dance competitions and volleyball tournaments in the theater and exhibit halls in the month of March. As I mentioned at the start of the update, we expect to have more certainty around third and fourth quarter event activity by the next board meeting, and we'll be prepared to discuss any adjustments to forecasts we believe are necessary. Non-operating expenses, you'll see quite a bit of variation between budget and actual results, which isn't too uncommon this time of year. The biggest variance is the Visit Milwaukee fee, line 50. The reduction in that expense is a direct result of our decrease in tax revenue collections. And one last note on the income statement, you'll see on line 39, column B, Bucks district ticket surcharge revenue is at $35K as the Bucks began admitting into Fiserv format limited capacity fans beginning in the month of March. With the announcement last week that the Bucks expect to be at 50% capacity for at least the first two playoff games, we are optimistic that revenue from this category will continue to grow. Any questions on the 21 income statement? To the cash flow projections on pages 11 and 12 of the packet, not much has changed here from last meeting. We're still projecting relatively healthy restricted and unrestricted cash balances for year end. Management has no concerns about meeting its debt or operational obligations for the remainder of the calendar year. And just a quick follow-up to a possible issue we raised at our last board meeting. We did discuss the impact that a potential sales tax holiday bill would have on the district's tax collections in 2021. We were projecting to sustain a $2.7 million reduction in our tax revenue should it become law. At this time, there are no new updates on this matter, consistent with the statement that Senator Darley made at our last board meeting. A companion bill to the one the Assembly passed in April has not been taken up in the Senate at this time. Again, we'll continue to monitor and report to the board any updates we have on the situation. Any questions regarding cash balances or the income statement? Okay, well then, Mr. Chairman, I will turn the floor over to Wendy Unger of Baker Tilly to brief the board on the audit of the district's 2020 financial statements. And so the board is aware, Wendy reviewed these statements with our finance committee last Thursday. We made a few minor adjustments at the request of the committee, and the committee did vote to recommend the board approve these statements at this meeting. Wendy, go ahead.
Good morning. Your packet, one thing to note for
Well, Mr. Chair, this is Grady. We're not receiving any
at this
audio
point in time.
online.
So beginning in the handout that I've included in your packet, the agenda for this morning, we'll go through the audit objectives and the opinion that we plan to render on the financial statement documents. We'll also go through some very high-level financial statement highlights and also conclude with the reporting and insight documents document that we issue as part of the audit process. The objective of the audit was to render an opinion on the financial statements of the district. Our intention is to issue a clean, unmodified opinion, highest level of assurance that you can obtain from us as your auditors. That clean, unmodified opinion means that the financial information contained within your audited statements is believed to be materially accurate, that the disclosures that are required to be included have been included, that we followed generally accepted accounting principles, and that accounting principles have been consistently applied from year to year. I will just draw your attention, included in our opinion is an emphasis of matters section that notes a comment on going concern and references footnote 17 in the statement, so I encourage you to take a look at that at your convenience. Moving on in the presentation, I will start the financial highlights portion. That's on page 17 of 122. What I presented here is the statement of net position. This is the balance sheet for the district for 2020 compared to 2019. Looking at the top portion of this document, you'll note your total assets over $1 billion compared to $594 million as of the end of 2019. Some fluctuations there. Current assets are down. That's your operating cash area, but your non-current assets are up by approximately $451 million. The main reason for that is part of the borrowings that were done during 2020 was for construction for the project. So those monies are currently in your non-current assets and sitting as restricted funds to be used for construction. Also, there was some capital asset activity, and I'll speak about that in a moment on the next page. Moving down to the liability section, you'll note $403 million last year, up to $882 million this year. Again, the debt activity that occurred during 2020 impacted the amount of liabilities that the district had, but you will note that there's a decrease in your current liabilities by approximately $6 million, and that's really due to the refunding of debt that happened during the year and really taking about $6 million out of the current portion and moving it into long-term. The net position section at the very bottom, this is the end results. You'll note net position went from 193 million down to 162 million, so a decrease of 30.8 million. If you turn to the next page, this is where that 30.8 million is explained. You'll note, I'm sorry, on the next page is the capital asset and long-term debt summary. Just to quickly touch on that, the capital assets, you'll note at the very top, 536 million down to 522. Main reason for that, the only consistent within that category is depreciation. So on an annual basis, the district recognized approximately $20 million of depreciation, not a cash item, but again, an expense that flows through the income statement. So during 2020, that decrease is 20 million of depreciation, although there was some additional costs, 2.2 million for construction-related costs for the project that is sitting in construction in progress. The bottom portion, again, of that table summarizes the long-term obligations, showing the total, and then the current and long-term portions. On the next page, page 19 of 122, is, again, the income statement that I referenced previously. Just a few items to note here. Your operating revenues, 7.1 million, down from 18.6 million. The main reasons for that is the commission on concession sales was essentially zero, so that's a $5 million swing. Also, box office sales and space and equipment rental sales were down also by approximately 5 million, so 10 million of that is those contributing factors. Operating expenses also down approximately 6 million, and that was savings in the wages and salaries categories, utilities, advertising, those type of areas. The non-operating section, you'll note that was 27 million of income last year, down to 4.7 million this year. And as you can see there, the largest swing is within the tax revenue, and that's your room tax, food and beverage tax, car rental tax. Again, all of those saw significant decreases due to the pandemic. Bond amortization and interest expense, you'll note an increase in that category. And again, because you borrowed in 2020, there were some additional debt issuance type costs that were incurred for those borrowings, and that additional increase is included in that line item. So as you can see, approximately 3 rows up from the bottom, the decrease in net position was 30 million, 0.8 for 2020, resulting in the 162 million of net position that I noted previously on the statement of net position. On the next page, this is where I've highlighted the cash flow activity for the district for 2020. This is page 20 of 122. Not going to go through this in great detail, but you can see that the increase in cash compared to 2019, $438 million increase in 2020 compared to a decrease of $4.4 million in the previous year. Again, related to the additional borrowings that were done for the construction project. You will note that I did break out on that cash flow presentation the borrowing that was associated with the refunding versus the borrowing that was associated with the construction project. Roughly of the $525 million that the district borrowed during the year, approximately $40 million is related to refunding, and the remaining costs are, or the remaining proceeds are to be used for construction. Likewise, the principal that was paid during the year, again, roughly $40 million was paid down on existing debt that was refunded and restructured, and then again, interest made on the existing debt, and debt issuance costs were paid. On the last page of what I have prepared to present today is our reporting and insights summary. This is a separate document that we do issue as part of the audit process. This allows us to communicate with those charged with governance certain items that we need to under our standards, but also allows us to share any comments or recommendations. Included in that report continues to be a material weakness because we as your auditors become part of your internal control structure once once a year when we prepare your audited statements. Also, as part of that audit process, we do prepare some material journal entries related to the accounting for your other post-employment benefits and your pension activity. That is consistent with what we've done in the past. Also very happy to say there was one material weakness that no longer exists at the end of 2020, and that related to a segregation of duties surrounding the payroll function. Management was able to implement appropriate controls with the staffing that they had, and that comment no longer exists. Also included in that document is some other comments and recommendations. It's an IT best practice type item, so not going to go into a great detail there. But again, the required communication section that is included in there is again the items that we need to communicate with you as part of the audit process. Some noteworthy items in there. There's a section that highlights the estimates that are included within your audited statements. Again, no surprises there. Depreciation, pension, OPEB, all based on estimations. We do review all of that information as part of the audit process and believe it to be reasonable in comparison. Also highlights the material journal entries I mentioned previously, and also references the going concern footnote disclosure. At this point, that's what I have prepared. I'd be happy to answer any questions that any of you may have regarding the draft documents, the presentation, the audit process.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, please.
Thank you. Ms. Unger, I'm sorry. On page 20, statement of cash flow, there's a contribution from the state of Wisconsin and Milwaukee County. Can you discuss that in greater detail for me?
Mr. President, I can explain that. That $8 million is appropriated by the state of Wisconsin to fund the debt used to build the Fiserv former arena.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? If not, we would like to entertain a motion to approve the audit as presented.
This is Aicha. I'll make the motion.
We have a second. Omar, thank you. All in favor of approval of the audit from Baker Tilly as presented?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Great, thank you. The audit is approved. Thank you. All right. Wendy, appreciate it. And now on to Marty.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce Mike Abrams from CAAICon, who'll give us an update on the expansion and then introduce a number of our guests connected with the expansion.
Hey, good morning. Good to see everybody again. I just want to give a real brief update this morning on a couple of focus items that we are involved with right now on the expansion project. We want to get to our updates on design. We've got we've made some very good progress on interior design, and we've got some renderings and a quick fly-through video that our design partners here will present here in a few minutes. So a few things and a few highlights and updates. We continue to work on our scope alignment between scope documents and our construction manager, Gilbane Smith. We are well into our design development phase of the project. Our focus lately has been on mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems, programming of some of our outdoor terrace spaces, our exterior civil landscaping design, and interior signage and our technology systems. We've had several community outreach events that have been led by our construction manager, Gilbane Smith, in the last few weeks. We have a few more, as you know, from last month planned here for later this summer. We currently have completed construction documents. We're calling our bid pack 1 set of documents. They are right now out for bid. They've been out for bid for a couple of weeks. We have a few weeks remaining to get those bids back. That scope of work consists of site demolition, underground utilities, and deep foundation systems. The plan is currently and still remains to start that work this summer, hopefully in early July. And a reminder, we have 2 future 100% bid packs due by the end of the year, one in October and one in December, for the structure, the foundations, the enclosure, and the mechanical electrical systems. We're also focused on meetings with the city of Milwaukee, the Department of Neighborhood Services. We have a discussion with them next week, a follow-up discussion with them on mostly code-related items. And our other focus is on the balance of the project RFPs. We are about to award the building commissioning system firm for our lead program. We also have, from some questions from the last board meeting, we want to do a follow-up in June with our inclusion consultants, PRISM, and also Cross Management. And we're going to do that next month at the board meeting in June to discuss the tracking and verification process that occurs through those programs. So that's just a quick update. I'd like to turn it over to TVS Design, our great design partners from Atlanta. It's been with us from the very beginning. They are partnered with local architect, as you know, EUA, Epstein Ewan Architects. Unless anyone has any questions on the expansion, we'd like to turn it over to design updates. Thank you. So we have Sal, and we have Rob with TVS Design.
Thanks, Mike. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be back in front of y'all. I think Rich and I presented to you guys. It was probably my last trip, or one of my last trips before travel shut down last year. So it's exciting to be back with an update and to show you the progress we've been making. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through a design presentation for you, and then there's an animation video walkthrough that shows that progress in context. If you remember, we showed a video last year, and in that video is really kind of conceptual, preliminary, and where we are now is we've completed a schematic design. We're in the design development phase, so we've resolved some of the design issues, but there's still a number of things to be resolved. So what we're going to show is the process and progress of the project, but it is not kind of what the final outcome is going to be. That's in the process of being worked out in collaboration with Marty and his team and ICON and all of the design team, local architects, and our EUA partners. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sal, and she'll walk you through the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Rob. We can queue up the PowerPoint here. So a design update, basically. So I'll reiterate a few things that were brought up. To start with, just to set the stage, entering the project, we had a program goal. The idea was to be able to hold 2 simultaneous events on the campus. So in order to do that, our mandate was to nominally double the ballroom capacity with a new ballroom, double the meeting room capacity, and then expand the exhibit hall to amount to 300,000 square feet total. In addition to that, parking, so a new parking garage. So based on these, we've continued to finesse the plans and the project. As Mike mentioned, we resumed design at the beginning of this year and went through a very intensive 2.5-month schematic design process, during which we didn't only workshop with Wisconsin Center, but also toured peer facilities in the region along with the design team, so we could collectively learn what would and wouldn't work for the customers of this campus. Starting demolition on some site work later on this year, and you can see before the end of the year, we're planning on releasing 2 bid packages, and then with a target for groundbreaking early next year. So as a refresher, just going to go through the floor plans quickly here. You're seeing the expansion of the convention center to the right and parking essentially to the west here, mimicking the existing building that has meeting rooms on the first two levels. We're basically taking that same approach. We have meeting rooms in orange, lining a pre-function space along the street with the new administrative offices to the north along Kilbourne. Second level is pretty much the same as the first level. The meeting rooms stack. You've got the pre-function also wrapping. This is where you would connect seamlessly into the admin offices on the upper level. This is also where we connect over to the Hyatt and the connection to the existing building. One thing to note is the large outdoor terrace. That's kind of been an early design goal, and we've been able to maintain these terraces. At the exhibit level, it's kind of a simple expansion to the north of the exhibit hall. So this would be Hall E. Together, the entire campus would be 300,000 square feet of exhibit. The loading docks also expand to the north. One feature that we have is this, what we're calling a multi-purpose space, which, as you can see, the pre-function, the circulation kind of stops here. But what's interesting about this space is it can act as part of the exhibit hall on certain days or as part of the pre-function on certain days, depending on the configuration. So it's a very flexible setup here to allow for different types of functions to occur. I also want to note that we have amenities on every floor. So we have gender-neutral restrooms on every floor. We have a mother's room on every floor. And then as we go up, you'll see we have a quiet room on the ballroom level. So here's the ballroom level. This ballroom, approximately 32,000 square feet. It's kind of a destination space at the top of the building. Generous pre-function and a large party terrace that wraps the corner of the building. This is backed with a full banquet kitchen, so this would be a second kitchen in the facility to serve this ballroom and can work in conjunction with the existing kitchen. And then, yeah, and views. So a lot of this will kind of come to life as we go through the images and the fly-through in a minute. So what we've been working on since the last time we saw you is really starting to develop the interior spaces and the look and feel of those volumes. So here's just a quick in progress snapshot of where we are with the interior design of the building. Lots of aspirational conceptual images here, but that's kind of setting our target. So here's a view of your kind of front lobby, and a collaborative stair that is there to accommodate chance encounters and casual seating where people can kind of plug and play in between events. We have a water feature in our lobby, and so that's being developed, kind of providing further definition of that. And you can see this is just a very dynamic space that leads your eye up to that destination ballroom on the fourth floor. A welcome desk that is there to greet visitors as they come in through the new main entrance at Kilbourne and Velar Phillips. These are early concept images of a lounge / food and beverage destination in the building. So in workshopping with the Wisconsin Center, this has gone through several iterations on what's the best visibility, what's the best guest experience. So here we're really trying to drive home a hospitality feel, a less institutional feel for this space. This is an example of kind of us utilizing every last square inch of the building to really enhance that visitor experience, and even spaces underneath escalators that usually just are leftover spaces, and how do we make use of them effectively. Early concept images of inside the meeting rooms. Keep them simple, flexible. And then this is a view looking into the new exhibit hall entry, and it's showing that space that I was calling the multi-purpose space. And again, this is an example of a feature that has gone through several iterations, trying to strike a balance between feeling contiguous with the pre-function or feeling contiguous with the exhibit hall, depending on the function, depending on the event. This is a rendering of the exhibit hall looking north through the glass facade in an exhibit mode, showing that multi-purpose space and the view out through the pre-function to the outside. Looking back out through that portal that we were looking at, and that looking up to the escalators that would lead you up to the ballroom level here. And then finally arriving up at the ballroom level, and you can see we're starting to think about what these entrances could look like, what that experience can be, knowing that we've got ample pre-function, and you'll see in a minute how this relates to the terrace. We're studying several different ceiling design options currently. That's in process. And so you may see a few different ideas flashing up on the screen of ceiling designs for the ballroom. Here's one of them that we're studying. And then really quickly, part of the exercise is also how to make the guest experience seamless between the existing building and the expansion. So there's a parallel study on refinishing the existing meeting room entries, and here's just a couple images, couple ways to skin that cat, but we're again, this is early and in progress. And we're going to run the fly-through first and then stop to take any questions after that. That's the bridge over to the Hyatt. The existing exhibit pre-function right there. The multi-purpose space. An overlook to the existing building from the expansion. Happy to take any questions if anyone has any.
I just have a comment. I've been to my fair share of convention centers. I think that space itself is very intentional, very well thought. I think it draws a little bit of inspiration from Charlotte. They're not some, where did we tour? Nashville, a little bit of Nashville inspiration there. But I also think that the design is, the way that you created the design, this is going to stay relevant for decades. I just want to say, job well done.
Thank you.
As you think about integrated design, the continuity between the buildings, I guess I'd urge you to think about also how to amenitize the south side. You've got, I mean, it looks great, it does look fantastic, and there's gonna be tons of great amenities on the north side. But I don't think you wanna create a situation, it's gonna be some, you don't wanna create a second-class citizen situation.
Absolutely.
And so, yes, continuity is important, but also,
what amenities can you have for the south side? What things can you do to make it attractive to those people who are on that side as well? Because both are going to be filled up, so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's a great comment, and I think it's something that we're all conscious of, to make sure that the whole building feels like one campus. And we haven't gotten into the specific designs of that, but what we're trying to do is protect the budget for that. And so there's a special line item that we're holding outside of the new construction that's related to what the renovation is going to be. So I think, you know, coming up in the next phase, we're going to probably dig into that a little deeper. So, thank you.
How much is that?
Mike, it was
How much is the renovation?
4 million?
The south side, how much is being held for the south side?
Greg, so we have different buckets for different parts of the south side. We have we have, Marty, do you want to?
We don't have a hard number identified for it, Greg. What we're aiming towards is between $25 and $30 million, using it from design fees as well as contingency to support the improvements made to the existing building. But we don't have a hard number at this point earmarked. A lot of it's going to be budget-driven.
We're definitely focused on the public areas first, the main concourses, the pre-function areas. Okay.
Yeah, I think that the meeting room fronts are something that we're looking at, electronic signage, some of the technology upgrades. Did I miss something?
At the very least, Greg, what we will have done is carpeting, wayfinding, lighting, all of the freshening of the public spaces. If budget allows, then the refacing of the existing meeting rooms, so there's continuity to the existing meeting rooms. The IT backbone and amenity portion, the DAS system, are up to well above requirements at this point in time. There is design money or money included to do a new outdoor LED board in place of the dot matrix board that's at the corner of Valar Phillips and Wisconsin, but there isn't anything currently contemplated to do to the exterior of either with the Wisconsin Avenue side or the Valar Phillips side of the existing structure.
I appreciate it. I guess I'm thinking beyond, just, again, carpet. What amenities? You talked about quiet room. Just things that'll, to a customer will sell. Hey, you know, if you're on the south side, don't worry. We've got some really cool things for you. They don't have to be horribly expensive, but that just show that we thought about.
We're looking to incorporate all the amenities that we're putting into the north expansion into the south expansion. To the degree that we're able to do that, really will be tied to monies that are available as we get further into the design project or process. But to your point, we're very deliberate in not saying old and new. It's north and south for that very reason, because we want to make sure that whatever event is in the south structure has the same experience from start to finish, inside and out, as they would in the north building.
And I think you have a really privileged situation here compared to a lot of centers when they go through this, because you already have anchor hotels at both ends of the building that will naturally activate both ends. So I think we have to do the job to tie it together, but I think the way the infrastructure of this building was set up and works now works very well for that two-piston engine. Any other questions?
Great.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, Rob, Sal,
Thank you.
Mike, thank you.
Thank you.
It's awesome. Well done. Really well done. Ed, before we go into the CEO report, Marty has requested that a portion of the CEO report be handled in closed session. At the appropriate time, I'll be requesting a motion to do so. Marty?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to start off by acknowledging how many of our board members are here in person. This is a milestone meeting for us. We're above 2 or 3 in person, so appreciate those of you who've been able to attend in person over the past several months. Those of you who are attending in person today, thank you, and hopefully as we get further into post-COVID-19, you will all be able to attend, schedules permitting. So it's great to have you here and being able to share a nice breakfast and coffee before we get started. As Steve talked about in the 2021 budget overview, we are very encouraged about the activity we're seeing for events, especially when the City Health Department increased capacities initially to 50% and then, as of June 1st, to 100%. We've seen a lot more incoming calls and a lot more receptiveness to our outbound calls for people contemplating events, not only for 22 and beyond, but also to pick up some business for the third and fourth quarters of this year. Subject to any further changes by the City Health Department or the CDC, as of June 1st, we will be allowing guests who are fully vaccinated to attend events within our campus without wearing a mask. Guests who are not fully vaccinated will be encouraged to wear a mask, while all guests will be asked to give reasonable consideration to social distancing. After May 31st, we will be requiring all district administrative and event-related staff, whether fully vaccinated or not, to continue wearing masks for now. The exception being a closed private meeting, and if everyone in that closed private meeting has been fully vaccinated and everyone is comfortable being maskless, then we will allow that as of June 1st. As Steve indicated, the vaccination clinic is still going on, although it's dramatically been winding down over the past several days, and their last day of service is next week, May 28th. On the event side, just in case any of you missed this outstanding recruiting news, Patrick Baldwin Jr., one of the highest recruited basketball players this past year, has decided to stay at home at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee playing for his dad. In speaking with the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, they are extremely excited what that's going to do to their ticket sales, so we do expect to see an increase in event attendees for their fall and winter schedule. What just so incredible is that he was thought to be going to either Duke or Georgetown, and the fact that he stayed in Milwaukee is phenomenal. One update on the Beyond Van Gogh exhibition that opens up in July. We continue to see a strong ticket sales, and through September, we've sold over 47,000 tickets. We're hopeful that that event can be extended, but we're waiting till that gets started before making that commitment. But very, very strong, and really has opened our eyes to this type of programming for using the exhibition halls moving forward. I appreciate the presentation Sal, Rob, and Mike have done about the expansion. Really continue to be very energized by working on this project, and appreciate the confidence the board has put in our organization and Visit Milwaukee to continue moving forward with it. I continue to be asked to give presentations on what the project is and its impact into Milwaukee. Most recently, I gave a presentation to the Rotary Club of Milwaukee and was invited by Peggy Williams-Smith to be the speaker in their weekly webcast a week ago Friday, so appreciated that. As I indicated in the last board meeting back in April, we were bringing the staff back from furloughs and layoffs. Everyone has returned to work, immersed in the projects we have coming up over the next several months and through the rest of this year. And just as a reminder, last July may have gotten clouded in other news, but last July we did implement the $15 an hour minimum wage, and that's really helping us bring our staff back on the event side and part-time work. Something that was announced last week by Bid 21, we've been working with them for a number of weeks on this, and that's in conjunction with Bid 21, we will be painting a portion of the north wall of the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee Panther Arena that's on the corner of Valar Phillips and State Street with a mural by renowned artist Kelsey Montague, and you can see the rendering of that artwork. She's done other designs around the country, most notably wings, where people can stand in between the wings and take a selfie or an Instagram moment. This is a peacock, and it really ties nicely into our building more theme that we have for the expansion. In this case, one of the hashtags we'll be using to promote this is building more pride, picking up on the NBC proud as a peacock from many years ago. But we're very excited about this, and know that Visit Milwaukee and Bid 21 will be promoting this along with a program that's a shout out to local artists to do, I believe, 3 or 4 versions or other type of Instagram moments around the city. It's just really helping us get people on the streets and making memories in downtown Milwaukee. And as far as open session comments, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have for my report. Happy to take any questions, but then I would like to go into closed session if we can.
One curiosity, is that mural, I assume that's on panels and not painted on brick?
It will be painted on brick. We have treated the brick with a non-abrasive surface or substance that will allow us to paint on top of it, but it's not, no way affects the environment and no way affects the structure of the brick itself. What is your concern, Bob?
Well, it's very difficult to get paint off a brick painted. Why don't you put a mural on panels, wood panels, and it's easily dismantled or moved to some other location?
This is how the project was proposed and something we were,
Well, I would not paint a brick building, because you will not get the paint completely.
You know, we hadn't looked at it as any other alternative because it was
Because
presented.
that's a handsome building, and it's arguably historic. I mean, it's 1950 built, correct?
Sure, yeah, yeah. I think good suggestion. I will look into see if there's another alternative other than painting directly onto the brick.
Any other questions for Marty? All right, thank you, Marty. The board may convene in closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute S. 1985-1E for purposes of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business, whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, and pursuant to Wisconsin Statute S. 1985-1G for purposes of conferring with legal counsel for the district who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is likely to become involved. The board is expected to reconvene in open session following this agenda item. I would ask for a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. We will go into closed session. We will allow for a moment to the room to be cleared, and then we'll let everybody on the phone know when we are ready.
bit of a flurry because it had gone very long. There were a number of things on the agenda, one specifically that required closed session. And when we returned from closed session, a vote was taken, and then the meeting was adjourned quickly. I was not able to share with the board my appreciation for your continued support. The last thing on the agenda was to vote for a new agreement for me to remain with the organization for 3 years plus option years. I am thrilled that you endorse that. I love working in this organization. I love running this organization. I love working with the board, very dynamic group of leaders, and I just wanted to share with you publicly my appreciation for your continued support.
Thank you, Marty. All right, with that, future meeting dates, I don't think Michael's back, but I also don't think anything has changed. And if you have any issues, please get a hold of Michael if you can't make any of the meetings, and we'll try to accommodate as best as possible. I have been guilty of missing a couple myself. So.
And we appreciate Grady Crosby's.
Yes, once again, Grady's steady leadership has been able to get things done. Any future board items for discussion from anybody? If so, please just contact us. And last, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor of adjournment? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, have a great weekend. It's going to be nice and hot, so get out and enjoy the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.